Today, we're going to be talking about time management with a colleague of mine who is also a wonderful coach named Sonia. And we're going to be talking about the way that I manage my time and sort of delving into that because I actually have a really good relationship with my time. I like how time feels for me. And I have learned through talking with a lot of people that that is unusual, that most people really struggle with their relationship with time. So there are some sort of tricks and tips throughout the video that I talk about of how I go about managing my time. So hopefully you can manage your time better too. Hope that's helpful, and let's get into it. So I think that when people explicitly ask for advice, sometimes it's a trap and sometimes it's useful. So sometimes when people ask for advice, if you give it to them, no matter what you say, they will bat it away because there are just sort of too many cognitive blocks for them to be able to accept any sort of answer. And that being said, I'm a big I'm a big proponent of iteration. So I'm a big proponent of like, let's just try it out and see what happens.
Practice.
And then if it doesn't work, then we can sort of go from there. That gives us information. So sometimes, if a client is really pushing for advice, I'll give it to them. And then I'll when they immediately bat it away, I'll point that out. I'll be like, you see
Yeah.
how we just,
Yeah.
you know, no matter what I say, it doesn't matter. It just gets batted away.
Yeah.
And then we're in it and we can start to work through that. And so
Yeah.
it all just sort of helps the process. What about you?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, it's the same where it's like, I allow them to ask me questions and I can answer it. And I try to tell them where I'm answering it from a place of experience or like for me or other clients. And I'll say, like, what are your thoughts after I say it to like get their feedback instantly. And sometimes it's like, yeah, they're mulling it over, they're thinking it through, and then they might find some like flaws with it, or how it applies to them. And again, it's centered around them.
Yeah, because a lot of times I feel like when you talk about asking what their thoughts are, a lot of times when I see people talking with others, trying to help others out, they'll just bulldoze. They'll just sort of give a bunch of advice, and you can see in the other person that it's not really landing, but they don't take the time to check in and see how that's going for them, which is the whole, in my mind, that's the whole game, is you
Yep.
have to be constantly monitoring how it's landing for them so that then you can adjust and sort of find what's right.
Yeah, yeah. And then like if something didn't make sense, you can address that, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the first question that comes to mind is, how do you manage your time and what are some time tricks or tools that you use?
Sure. So for me, I discovered during COVID, I did it before COVID, but I discovered how important it was to me during COVID, how important sort of ritual is for me. Because before COVID, I didn't really realize, but once COVID happened and some of my rituals got, what's the word? Some of my rituals got derailed. I realized what a mess I was because I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm doing. Like and at a certain point, at first when you're doing nothing, it feels kind of good because it's like nice relaxation. But then at a certain point, it just feels like you're rotting. It's just like what
Yeah.
am I? Why am I? I want to do
There's a lack of structure.
yeah. And so I really started to appreciate my little rituals that I do throughout the day. And the reason that I use the word rituals and not routine is because rituals imbues more significance into them. So if it's just a routine, and it's like I get clients all the time that come to me and are like, I need a better routine. And then the things that they name are all just shoulds. They're all just things that they're supposed to do,
Yeah.
like work out and clean the house and blah 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, but why do you want to do
Must.
any of that? Why do you care about any of that stuff?
Mhm.
And so rituals, the reason that I like that idea is because if I'm going to make something a ritual, it has to be important to me. It has to be
Mhm.
sacred in some way.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And so I think that that's sort of the combination of both tactically what I do with my time and then
Yeah.
psychologically how I create sort of regularity within that, which is just that they're really important to me. Like I don't like being taken away from them.
Yeah, yeah. No, what I really like what you said was that there's significance and that there's like with, routines, it's very should and maybe like negative connotation, whereas rituals is like positive and like sacred. I like that word you use too. And that's that perception part. Yeah, no, that's really good. What is like one of your favorite rituals?
Sure. So that's tough. Let me think about because I love all of them. So let me think about
Okay.
what one of my
Is
favorites
that
is.
one that you'd like to share, that
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
okay sharing?
yeah. Okay. I think one of my favorite rituals is I call it shirts and shorts, which is that
Shirts and
on
shorts?
shirts and shorts, which is on every Saturday, I sit down in front of my computer with 7 to 14 different shirts and I record a whole bunch of shorts for social media. And in between each
Uh,
short, I change shirts so that it looks like I'm recording on different days.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, so we're not like as the viewer seeing like, oh, he recorded all of these on the same day,
exactly.
but yet he's changing, yeah, but actually it is the same day, but you're changing your shirts.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I like that ritual for a few reasons. One, I just like the comedy of it. I think it's every time I do it, I'm giggling at myself for changing my shirts in between each short. And then two, I guess there's a few reasons. The second is because it's a way that I try to, put out good stuff into the world. I think that something that I talk about a lot is that we live in an attention economy. And so the things that you give your attention to, you give power to. And so I think that a lot of the cancel culture that we have nowadays actually has the opposite effect. That if you look at the numbers of like when a streamer gets canceled, if they keep streaming, what the numbers show is that their average viewership actually goes up from before they were canceled. And so, in an attention economy, the only way to actually cancel someone is to be louder, is to get more attention to them so that they fall into irrelevancy. And so, in this world that so many people feel like is on fire and they feel powerless in the world, I think that the best thing that you can do is to put your voice out into the world, and put your perspective out into the world, so that you can be the change that you want to see in the world.
Yeah, you remembered that. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so for you, the t-shirts is that a tactic to like keep attention?
Oh no,
Yeah, how do you tie those two? Yeah,
that's
go
just
ahead.
just making the shorts themselves is, oh, I'm
Okay,
like
so
putting
it's
my voice
actually
out into the
shorts.
world.
Yeah.
But the shirts is just sort of a funny thing that I do, and then
Fun.
also, yeah, I don't know, it feels better for some reason. Like recently this week, I was trying out some alternative short recording tactics where it was a little bit more casual and I was just sort of grabbing my phone and recording something. And I was wearing the same shirt in all of them. And first of all,
Mm,
it bombed. It did horribly compared to other
okay.
weeks. But second of all,
Interesting.
it just does, like when I look at my feed, I don't like it as much as when I have, like there's like nice
Okay.
variety on the
Yeah,
page.
yeah. Yeah, I was wondering because I'm thinking even like for you, it's like self-expression, like you're showing off your style too, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah, as in
that
like
that that
variety.
definitely is. It's interesting that you clocked that because I don't think I've talked to you about that before. But something that is the word that comes to mind to describe it is sensual, not like sexually, but just in terms of like enjoying the senses. Something that is very sensual
Mm,
for me
mhm,
is
mhm.
clothing. Is like wearing the
Yeah,
right clothes, the right look, the right
yeah,
feel. It feels really
yeah.
important to me.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of intention behind it, like intention with your time, intention
Yeah,
with how you want to present yourself.
everything.
And then I love what you were saying, like you're practicing the iteration, right? Like that didn't do well when you did wear the same t-shirt when you were a bit more chill or like taking it from different angles. And so you're learning, you know what, I do like variety and I want to stay with that. And it's also like how you're representing yourself too. There's so many good aspects there. So
Thanks.
that's a really cool ritual.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
intention piece is in everything that I do, and I think it's one of the biggest reasons why I live a life that I'm really happy with is
mm-hmm.
because I've had conversations recently about this where when you think about I talk all the time about sort of working intuitively. People are like, what the
Mm-hmm.
fuck is that? How do you work intuitively? And I think that in order to work intuitively, you have to be in touch with what is going on for you at any given moment because it is constantly
Internal state.
changing. And then from
Mm-hmm.
there, then you can sort of say, oh, okay, since this is going on for me, this is what feels right to me, this is what needs to
Yeah,
happen, etc. And so it gives so much more intention. And I think that a lot of the reason that a lot of the cause for a lot of people suffering is just a lack of intention, lack of awareness. That it's just like they're just sort of going through life because we're so encouraged to do that. Of just
yeah. Should expectations,
yeah, shoulds, expectations, be a sheep,
external. Hmm.
and
Yeah,
it makes people freaking miserable.
yeah. Whereas you're checking in with yourself and being like, okay, what can I do next?
What feels good for me? What
What's
feels right for
the
me?
yeah, what's good for you? And I'm curious when we talk about time, how do you balance that out with your energy? Like, is that same concept right there of checking in with yourself? Like,
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah. So
what's the relationship between time and energy for
yeah,
you?
there will be times where, so for instance, one example that I can think of is sometimes I'll be sitting on my couch, and the way that I have my setup arranged is I have a laptop on the side table right next to my couch, so that if I want to take it out and do some writing, I can do that, and I don't have to come in here to do the writing because sometimes that barrier is just a little bit extra, and I don't want that, and so I just like remove
Yeah.
the barrier to make writing easier for myself.
Hmm.
And sometimes I'll bring out the laptop and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to start writing. And I'll start writing and it'll just feel like I feel the drag as I do it. And sometimes I'll see if my willpower can overcome the inertia and then I'll find some flow. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it's like, okay, 5 minutes, write for 5 minutes, see how it goes. And so then I'll start writing. And then if by 5 minutes it still feels like a drag, which does happen sometimes, then I'm like, okay, it's not time to write. I need to rest. And so then I'll put my laptop away and, rest, relax, whatever.
Wow. Yeah, I can really hear the presence with each moment there. First, like removing the barrier, making it easier for you to like grab your laptop, and then like putting in effort, so that's your energy. But then if it's not coming out like with the flow, you're like, okay, I have these different practices. And then I really like that you are allowing yourself to be okay to put it away, that now is not a good time,
Yeah.
and then resting.
Yeah. And sometimes what's interesting is that I find energy to be dependent on the activity. So sometimes I may feel a whole lot of drag in terms of something like writing, but then I don't know. I'll think about some form that I want to develop or some edit that I want to make to my website, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds cool, and so then I'll do that,
Yeah.
and that
Mm,
works fine. But there are definitely times that I'm like, nope, I just need to lay out. I just need to rest. And
yep.
then, you know, what's interesting is that I think a lot of people, when they hear this kind of idea, they're like, well, that's nice, but you're never going to get enough done. And I would,
Yeah.
I would challenge that just because of the sheer amount of volume that I put out.
Yeah.
So, and who knows? My brother has argued before that that's just sort of my superpower is that I can work endlessly.
Yeah.
But my experience working with people is that the more and more they start to work intuitively, the more that they actually get done. And so
Mhm, mhm,
it
mhm.
doesn't feel to me like I'm some special magical unicorn. It feels
Right.
like I've just figured out,
Tap into that.
yeah, tapped into that. Well said.
Mhm, mhm. Who asked you the question about you won't get enough work done if you're like working in sort of the intuitive working pattern that works for you? Yeah.
Many
Where does
people,
that come from?
many people. I hear it
Wow.
all the time that,
Wow.
there's this fear. The way that it's expressed is usually like, yeah, that's a nice fairy tale, but that's not the way that the real world works. The way that the real world works is you have to willpower your way through life. And
Mhm, mhm.
one of the other people that I record this podcast with, her name's Stephanie. She had this zinger one time when I was talking to her where I was asking her sort of a purposefully challenging question. And
Yeah.
she said, how's that working out for you? And it's just like a great way to really drive it home because it's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You want to live your entire life through willpower? How's that working out for you?
Does not sound nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, and my challenging question to whoever's asking you that is like, what is enough work? When do you know it's enough?
totally.
Like, are they living in that 40-hour work week? Is it, when they finish a project? Because like, like they have extended deadlines like all the time. Things are changing. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
How does that feel? Go ahead.
inevitably when I ask the question, because I'll ask that same question of like, what's enough?
Yeah.
Inevitably, when I ask that, there's never an answer. They never know what's enough.
Yeah.
So they're like constantly striving for enough, and they don't even know what the marker looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes with when I'm working with clients and they're like, "Oh, I'm not doing enough at work." I'm like, "Do you know what the performance evaluation and those standards like are you doing the description in your job title and are you meeting those?
yeah,
Because then you know that you're doing enough."
right. It's like what are
Um
the actual
yeah.
KPIs? And
Yeah.
and it's amazing to see the gymnastics that happen where it's like
Yeah.
they're meeting all the KPIs, but then their brain comes up with some way to make that not enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just
Oh,
because
I'm
of
being
that,
lazy. I'm not, yeah.
yeah, just because of that like
Mhm.
underlying belief
Not
code,
enough.
etc.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Trying to remember the other question I was gonna ask
You were going to
you.
ask me how I felt about something.
Yeah, yeah. How do you feel when you're confronted with those types of like I guess when people ask you like that's you couldn't get enough done if you're working on your intuitive working pattern.
I feel sad because,
Mm,
like you said, it sounds like an awful way to go through life.
mhm.
And so to hear how many people have that belief and go through life that way, it hurts my heart.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're more so like looking at them and being like, oh man, like that's hard to see you in that belief pattern and that cycle.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like you found a great ebb and flow for yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that that's how most of the time I'm pretty good. I've gotten pretty good at being able to when somebody comes at me with something, with some sort of challenge or something, I'm able to in there's a book called Nonviolent Communication, and in that book they
mhm,
talk about this concept of giraffe ears, which is being able to hear the underlying need that is behind whatever is being expressed.
mhm,
And so
mhm.
a lot of times when people come at me, I've gotten pretty good giraffe ears of being able to hear that underlying need instead of taking it as a personal attack.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can really hear that you're like confident and comfortable in your own skin so that if someone is coming, I guess like you said, coming for you, you don't have to have your defenses activated. You can see what they're there's some underlying meaning there, and then react in a appropriate or positive manner with
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
And there are definitely still some weak points and vulnerabilities where, you know, I'll get a mean comment or something and it'll just hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've made some videos about sort of the process that I go through when that happens. But
Mm,
yeah, for even more so now than when I made those videos, I've really sort of acclimated, I think, to that, and it's a lot easier now.
mm, mm. And that, I think that's when we can go into a conversation about boundaries next
Totally.
time on our podcast.
Next time.